Hi there, and welcome to another video on Back of the Net. If you're a new subscriber, thanks so much for all your support recently. Now, of course, we're doing our interviews, but I think it's really important we address what on earth is going to happen with Project Restart. But before we talk about that, I want to bring in Craig Beazley, who is a fellow Cherry. Craig, how are you, mate?
Hello, Sam. Yeah, very well, thank you, mate.
And you've got your own opinions about what should happen and what shouldn't. But today it's been announced that top level sport in England could restart behind closed doors from June the 1st, but spectators may not be able to attend venues until a vaccine is found. So goodness knows when that will be. Now, the government's roadmap for exiting the lockdown imposed to limit the spread of coronavirus was published this afternoon. That's Monday, setting out the conditions under which various activities can safely be carried out. And yesterday, Boris Johnson's announcement, no one seems to know what on earth is going on in terms of seeing their families, seeing their friends. And in terms of sport, it's got its own repercussions, hasn't it, Craig?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And there's been a lot of ideas that have been mooted, ideas that are unfair for teams at top and the bottom of the Premier League and across all of the divisions as well, all the way down to the National League, who have already cancelled their season.
And that's what's making this so difficult, is that there are different leagues within the same country that are choosing to do different things in different countries. France have just, basically suspended their league and just said, okay, that's the way it's going to be, and they're deciding promotion and relegation. Other countries are doing it so many different ways, and how they're determining European spots, I don't know. Whether there'll be any European competition next season, no one knows. It's absolutely bizarre. But as you say, all the leagues, like the National League, have done their own thing, and it's been rumoured that the EFL are going to, for League One and League Two, are going to sort of basically stop the league as well. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, I read that as well, and I don't know how that's going to work. I was having a look at the bottom of League One in particular. So you've got Bolton at the bottom, you've got Southend just above them, and then you've got Tranmere. Now, Tranmere are only 3 points behind Wimbledon. I think they've got a slightly better goal difference. But one of their games in the running, I believe, is Wimbledon. So that's, don't quote me on that, but of course that throws up all sorts of issues around relegation. How can you relegate Tranmere and say, okay, Wimbledon stay in the league for an incomplete season when they haven't played each other, each team twice?
And there's still issues even within the Premier League, with Aston Villa having played a game less. And how can you stop the season? Is it going to then be done on points per game, or should it be weighted points per game with home and away? But some of the things that you said have been mooted include like playing games abroad. I think one article in the Sun said China or something, and I saw a tweet from Tyrone Mings. I don't know if it's sarcastic or not, mentioning Australia. I mean, how can that happen?
Gary Neville actually said the same as well about Australia, and how they can have the remaining 9-10 games abroad is beyond me. Firstly, where they're going to play. Qatar was another place that was mentioned. Are all their stadiums complete? I don't think so. So there's a lot of big question marks around that. And I think that's a non-starter.
Yeah, it is, and also the times that they kick off would have to suit UK TV audiences, etc. So it might be it would just be so. Let's just forget that theory. I think I mean, sometimes you just think, how on earth are professional footballers, or people like Gary Neville, that are now like in the world of media, how can he put out these ridiculous theories like that? They're just nonsensical.
It's crazy. It is crazy.
But then I suppose he's working for a TV company that will happily put on a fixture at 12 midday, like Bournemouth Huddersfield a couple of seasons ago. I think that was BT Sport actually, but we were waking up at 2 a.m. to catch the 3:30 coaches for that. So what does he care?
It was terrible weather as well, wasn't it? It was snowing at that time, and I was going to go to that one, but I don't envy anybody who took the journey up there.
No, I did, and it was it was awful. So another one's this whole neutral venue thing.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on it?
So, with regards to neutral venues, I think it's completely unfair, especially for the teams at the bottom. So, I've had a little look at our running and also Brighton's, because I think Brighton, out of all the teams at the bottom, before this even happened, was the team that I believed that we would catch. So, looking at their remaining home games, they've got Arsenal, Newcastle, Man City, Liverpool, and Man United. Now, you could say, okay, they are played at neutral venues. It's the same for both teams. But, of course, they haven't got that home advantage. They haven't got the fans behind them. But equally, we've played those teams, apart from Newcastle at home. We've got Crystal Palace, Southampton, Leicester, Spurs, and Newcastle.
Yeah.
You'd think that 4 out of those 5 games, I think with the exception probably being Leicester, considering Spurs' form, where we could realistically get some points, and that could be the difference between promotion staying up in the league.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I was arguing with someone on Twitter the other day, a Liverpool fan, and I did have a personal account on Twitter, but then when we restarted the podcast, I found myself like between 2 accounts. So I thought, you know what, I don't really tweet much stuff personally anymore. So I just thought, right, like I'm gonna just get rid of that. So I've just got the AFCB podcast one, but it's so, and I try not to get embroiled in facts and stuff, but it's so difficult, and I'm quite often having to bite my tongue. But there was obviously a lot of fans are self-interested, like Liverpool fans want it to carry on, Leeds fans do as well, but some of them were saying, well, having it at neutral venues, there is no advantage. So therefore, if you have to travel to, say, Man United like we have to, that's one of the fixtures that we've still got left. Wouldn't it be much better for us to play in a match at a neutral venue where there's no advantage? But I find it, a little bit weird because, for instance, with like Spurs, for instance, we've played at their place, and we've played where they've had the home advantage. And then in the return fixture, there's going to be a match where there's no advantage. That doesn't make sense. It's got to be, advantage for one side and then advantage for the other, so it evens out. But to have one team with an advantage and then no advantage for either team, that's not a fair and level playing field, is it? I
completely agree. And the way to look at it as well, I can't see football restarting on the 1st of June. I can't see it at all because, of course, there's the 3rd Brighton player that's been diagnosed as positive for coronavirus. So, I think there's no chance. I think, in all fairness, I'd love to see the season continue. However, they have to take the stipulation of relegation out of it, because if, say, for example, a team is relegated because they haven't had that home advantage, I think, if we was relegated and we'd played those teams at neutral venues, where we'd have the backing of Dean Court and the dimension, each pitch is different as well. We would have made, it would have been, a lot easier for us and a lot fairer, I should say, if we was playing, in our home ground.
There is. And each pitch, I mean, people say, well, it's not home advantage anyway because, you haven't got the fans. But, like you say, each, pitch dimension is very different. And there is a kind of, a minimum and maximum width that you can have. And there are some wide pitches and some very narrow pitches. And, it's, I find it really, really, really difficult. And, of course, there is this kind of thing like, well, perhaps we shouldn't have any relegation and, Leeds get promoted and, the top 2 go up and they're like happy with that. Each club is interested in what happens to themselves. And I'm quite pleased really that the Watford chairman came out the other day and actually said, well, I have got self-interest because I'm the chairman of this club. And, what happens to this club will affect, paid staff. They won't be able to afford, certain members of staff. They'll have to, downsize. And, a lot of Liverpool fans have been, saying, well, they're just like self-interested, but everyone is self-interested. That's the whole thing. But your proposal then, what would be your ideal way to sort it?
So my ideal way is to increase the amount of teams in the Premier League to 22 for next season. Yeah. I think it's fair to say that both Leeds and West Brom have really not so much run away with it, but built up a big enough gap that you could say, right, okay, it would only be fair to promote them should the season either end now or the rest of the games, for commercial reasons only, are played at neutral venues. Likewise, I do believe Liverpool should be handed the Premier League trophy. And with regards to European competitions, I think it should really stand as it is now. But with regards to promoting just the top two, that would mean scrapping the playoffs.
Yes, of course.
Which I think if there's going to be any doubts, and of course we're going to have to extend into, if football does carry on, into June, July, maybe even August, when you'd say that the new season should be starting, I realistically can't see the new season, so 2020-21, starting until October at the earliest. But I think with promoting those two teams, then I think that's the fairest way we can do it without no relegation.
Yeah. So how would you then see the knock-on effect for the Championship in that case?
Okay, so with the Championship, it would be quite nice and easy for them. So it would be two teams that would be promoted. So Leeds and West Brom to the Premier League this season. And then the top two teams, which is Coventry and Rotherham, they would be promoted to the Championship. So it would be just 2 in, 2 out. Of course, the knock-on effect the following season from that. So if you remember in 1994-95, the Premier League scaled back from 22 clubs to 20.
Correct, yeah.
So that season, it was just the top team, and then the other next 4 went into the playoffs. So it's either an option of just promoting the top team and then having the playoffs, or promoting the top 2 the following season, which will then balance out the Premier League to 20 clubs. And then it'll be a knock-on effect there on down.
Yeah, I see. So this would be the list of clubs, proposed with your idea, which I'm quite liking the look of, by the way. So that's for the 2021 season in the Championship. And, like you say, this would have a knock-on effect. So, League One and League Two, talk us through that.
Okay, so down to League One. So you'd have 4 that would be relegated from 2021 into League One. And then it will be 2 up from League Two. And then what I've actually done as well is, because of the National League situation, and there is all sorts of questions, legal going-ons. Also, they've got a situation where Harrogate have got a game in hand, I believe, with Barrow. And also, I believe they've also got Barrow at home. So promoting those top 2. So what it would mean is the top 4 divisions would be a team extra. However, by doing the 4 down from the Premier League, 2 up from the Championship, 4 down from the Championship, 2 up from League One, 4 down from League One, 2 up from League Two, and then 3 down into the National League the following season. That will even it out, and we'll be back to where we was.
Which division would be short of teams then? Because obviously the Premier League would have 22 teams. So which division you say would have the less teams than they've got at the moment?
It would be League Two.
And would you say that there is an argument that obviously for lower league clubs, their money comes through the turnstiles and they might be missing out in that case? So,
that is very true, yes.
And would you envisage maybe the Premier League putting together a package for League Two? Because, given the fact that there'll be more money coming through for them, then that could be an idea, perhaps an idea.
Certainly, and I think what we need to look at as well for both League 1 and 2 teams, if their seasons are scrapped, is a lot of the money being forwarded straight to them, because there is a number of teams in those leagues, Macclesfield being the biggest one. I believe they haven't paid their players for 5 months this whole year. So there is that difficulty.
And your thoughts your thoughts on the cups next year as well? Because obviously this would be, depending on when the league is kind of restarted, there, would there be time to shoehorn in the League Cup and the FA Cup?
I think they would have to scrap the League Cup. Like I was saying, I don't see next season starting until October, especially if we have to get the current season out of the way. So I think the Carabao Cup will have to be scrapped next season. I think, is it the leasing trophy now? I think that
leasing. I don't know what it is.
I remember when it was water windscreens.
That's when the interest ended.
But I think that will also have to go for next season. The FA Cup, I think they'll be able to keep that, but have to be focused on getting back, because of course we'll have the European Championships as well at the end of that summer.
And European competition like the Champions League and Europa League, would that go on? Because again, that's another midweek thing that would be taking up valuable time. It
is, and that is the big question: is how does that get finished? Considering it'll mean players going to and from countries. How does that even get finished for this season? I think that's the big difficulty. Is it going to have to go into next season? So playing effectively last season's competition next season, and then
there's so many headaches. There's so many headaches and so much talking to do with different organisations, different countries, and you're just wondering if some countries are just taking action already. Like the Premier League are really under pressure now, and I'm sure they've been liaising with the government, and they're saying this whole June the 1st thing. In terms of the neutral venues, if it happens, what benefit is there of playing a neutral venue? Because they say it's a controlled environment, but are they saying that Bournemouth or Southampton or any team in the Premier League aren't capable of controlling their own environment in terms of the spread of coronavirus?
Well, you would think that teams that are in the Premier League and at the moment would be able to control their home grounds correctly, and I think we should be able to, if football resumes, play at home. If it's at neutral venues, I think it would be completely unfair to relegate any teams from any leagues. But the other question is, whereabouts are these neutral venues going to be? Because it's even mooted that it's not necessarily going to be Premier League grounds. I'm thinking it'd probably be out of town grounds. So of which, we might qualify, as Dean Court isn't, directly in the centre of town. But you couldn't really play at Watford, for example. I'm guessing that's what they're aiming at. But I think it would be completely unfair.
Yeah, and in my mind, if this season does need to be played out somehow in order to determine who goes up, who goes down, etc. And as long as you establish the criteria for the following season in advance, then it's a level playing field and everyone knows what they're playing for. So, even if it has to be a shortened season or something, or one of the cups gets strapped, or you say, okay, this amount of teams will go down, then, everyone, will agree to it in advance. And then at least it's a level playing field. It's not at the start of the season, if they'd said, well, what we're going to do, we're going to play 29 matches, normally, and then in the last 9 match weeks, we're going to have a super, some kind of, 2 months where we're playing at neutral venues. It's going to be a festival of football, or however they're branding it. And no teams in their right mind, even Liverpool at the time, would have been like, I'm not having any of this. This is ludicrous. But yet they've got so much pressure on them from BT, from Sky, in order to get the football on, because obviously there will be financial repercussions if they don't, won't there?
Yes, yeah, and that's why if they do play at neutral venues, I think teams would be behind it as long as they take out the stipulation of relegation. With regards to the Brighton situation and the third player being tested positive, and I believe in Germany it was Cologne. I might have got that wrong, but I believe it was Cologne. They've had 2 players already tested positive. Who's to say that?
Oh, yeah, that's right. They were playing Dresden or something, and they've had to postpone their game. And if a player in a neutral venue, gets coronavirus, does that then mean, well, we're going to have to not use that venue? And it's just like, well, that's why I don't really see the difference between neutral venues and playing home and away. As long as it's controlled, then I don't really understand.
And it's a distinct disadvantage if one of the players does get coronavirus and all the other players do test negative. Who's to say that player, it could be one of the team's better players. Again, it's completely unfair. And that's why, it would be lovely to have football continue for the purposes of sponsorship money. I think, it'd be fine. Playing at neutral venues, as long as you take out that stipulation of relegation. So, of course, BT and Sky are still getting their money. You'll still see Liverpool crowned champions. You'll still see Leeds, as much as I can't stand them, getting promoted from the Championship. But at the same time, there'll be none of that repercussions, because you've got to think, if, say, for example, Watford were to get relegated, they've played, all their games, at neutral venues. I haven't looked at their remaining fixtures, to be honest. But if one of their players gets coronavirus, one of their better players, there could be legal repercussions as well for the Premier League. And
exactly, and there'll be, that player would have trained with all the others, and I'm sure when they're training, it can't be non-contact training. And then what happens then? You're supposed to isolate, and then are they going to be able to fulfill their fixtures? It seems bizarre, and part of me thinks, I can't see how this is going to get done and played out. But there's going to be legal repercussions. Now, we're Bournemouth fans. We're in the relegation zone.
Yes.
Is it easy for us to moan and groan about all these options that there are about restarting? If we were maybe 10th, 11th or 12th in the league, relatively safety, would you have a different view?
To be honest, if we was 10th, 11th, 12th, I probably want the season scrapped, because the fear of any of our players getting coronavirus. So, of course, I feel that the best thing to do is to cancel the season. Because even at neutral venues, there is that risk. You can't relegate anybody, though. It would be completely unfair.
If they did that, would you? I mean, this is a loaded question, because obviously I know which one you'd pick. But if they did choose the points per game method, I think obviously at the moment, if it went on points per game, it would be us, Villa, and Norwich that went down. But if it was weighted, which some people have suggested, i.e., you take the average home points and then average away points, then based on the matches that we've got left, I think we would beat like West Ham by like the smallest of margins, and we finish 17th, and then they would go down. But I just can't see the Premier League, getting together and thinking, we're going to relegate West Ham over Bournemouth, because I don't know. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but you just think, they'd be quite happy to, say bye-bye and let us go.
Yes, and that is the fear. I read it earlier on in the press. I think it's Watford, Brighton, and Villa that are making the most noise with regards to this and trying to get relegation scrapped. of course, from a Bournemouth perspective, I'd want it to be on a weighted system if they did go down that route, but I think that would be completely unfair on West Ham as well. And I think it's the only fair way they can do it, and the only way they can mitigate the legal repercussions is to just promote the top two. Yes, there'll be a lot of unhappy teams in playoffs down the leagues, but if you can't restart the season, Sam, for whatever reason, with League One and League Two, you can't promote, say for example, a third team and then relegate three teams from the league above. You can't restart the playoffs just on that note.
So, putting aside whereabouts these matches will be played at Dean Court or away grounds or a neutral venue, let's look at AFC Bournemouth's remaining fixtures. And on a pure footballing sense, let's just, almost forget that, coronavirus is there and, say that we are playing these matches at a neutral venue. Whereabouts can you see us getting points? Bear in mind our form was improving, but then obviously came that loss at Liverpool, Steve Cook's injury, but David Brooks could be back, probably will be back. Steve Cook might be back. And whereabouts do you see the points coming from in this run-in?
The three games that at home that I would have said would be ones that we'd have to win is Crystal Palace, Southampton and Newcastle. But because of Tottenham's poor form going into the spell that we have, I wouldn't have said that would be beyond us getting something there. So you'd think that could be 10, 12 points potentially. If those are played at neutral venues, then it's anybody's game. And it's a distinct disadvantage for us. Because we've played the Man Cities, we've played the Man Uniteds at home. We didn't expect to get anything from those games. We could beat Manchester United, which was a fantastic result. But we've played the tougher teams at home. Leicester is in there. But still, I think potentially we might have got something against them. We've got a good record against Leicester. But with it weighted, I think, Palace, Southampton, Newcastle would be where I'd expect the 3 points. For away games, to be honest, the only one that I would actually say is winnable is Everton. I think Man United were on a decent run of form. Man City, and Wolves were doing pretty well as well. So the only team that I would have said from our away games that we might have got something from is Everton. If those games are played at neutral venues, we could still get something from that Everton game. But I think it's unfair on us, seeing as we have played some of the tougher teams. We played Man City, we've played Liverpool at home, which Brighton have got left. Does that give them an advantage?
One of the factors that I was also, there are so many different factors. It's ridiculous. We could write, the Book of Genesis on it, really. But also, one of the things that I was thinking about when I saw the run-in, and obviously, we were in a bit of a bad situation in the league in sort of January, February, etc. And you're looking towards the end of the season, and you're looking at also Spurs, who had a bit of a bad run of form, and then teams like Wolves. You're thinking, they could be involved in European competition, and Man United might be concentrating on this competition, and etc. And you're kind of thinking, now they might not have European fixtures, and they'll be playing their best team. Whereas maybe if we were playing Wolves and they had a match in the Europa League on Thursday night, and then on Sunday lunchtime or whatever, they would be putting out a kind of weaker side or whatever. Now that won't be happening. And again, it's just another thing to throw into the mix of how can this be fair?
It's one that I hadn't really considered as well, Sam. So there's another reason why, okay, yeah, it might have worked in our favour. Say, for example, if Wolves had been playing in Europa League and come up against us on Saturday, then yeah, okay, there might have been that option. That they would have rested a lot of their players, or a lot of their players wouldn't have been as fit as they would be if the European competition is taken out. So yeah, I think that's why as well they have to kind of scrap the season. Okay, they could play the remaining 9 matches, but relegating any teams on that basis, I think, would be completely unfair. There's going to be somebody who will pop up, who will threaten legal action. We've been fairly quiet, but I think we've done the honest thing. And I think if push comes to shove, I'm sure Maxim and Jeff would have something to say about it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's been really interesting to hear your thoughts about it, Craig. Much appreciated for coming on today.
Not a problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, and what are your thoughts? Whether you're a Bournemouth fan or an opposition fan, we would love to hear your views. Put them in the comments below and let us know how you think the season should be resolved, if at all. Should it be voided? Look back through our previous videos as well, because John Williams, it may scar you for life. He is naked from the waist up. But oh my goodness, did you see that video, Craig?
I did, yes. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Honestly, when he came on, I thought this can't be happening. But he wasn't putting on a t-shirt. He said he was hot, so we just let him go. But he had his own opinions about it as well, and he says, well, it should be scrapped. But we also ask a number of players in some of our other videos as well on the YouTube channel. So do check those out as well. And do remember to subscribe. Remember, Sunday night live chat, 8 p.m. We hope to see you there. We'll reveal the name in the week. And also there'll be a cheeky little bonus extra on Thursday night as well. So we look forward to seeing you then. Up the Cherries.
Cheers.